Welcome to the Pimp Your Brilliance podcast with Monique Malcolm, a show about creative people leveraging their brilliance to create their own opportunities. I aim to show you what's really possible when you shut down the chorus of fear and lean into your genius zone. You can learn more about this show and subscribe for updates by visiting keepchasingthestars.com/podcast. Hey, Brilliant Squad. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pimp Your Brilliance. I am your host, Monique Malcolm, and the Pimp Your Brilliance podcast is a show for people who want to create their own opportunities and income by leveraging their ideas, talents, and skills. And I have a brand new resource for you. It's called the Find Your Genius Zone Guide. If you're stuck trying to figure out what skills or talents you could monetize or what exactly you are expert enough to teach someone else, I've created the perfect resource for you. Inside of the Genius Zone Guide, you will find exercises that will help you pinpoint where your natural talents lie, who your ideal client is, and what your MVP, meaning your minimum viable product or your first and simplest product, should be. To receive a copy of the guide, text Brilliance to 345345. Again, to receive a copy of this guide, you need to send a text message to 345345 with the word Brilliance. I also want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by the Visionary Journal. The Visionary Journal is a day planner with vision, encompassing everything you need to successfully achieve your goals. It seamlessly blends goal setting, a vision board, planning your day-to-day, and regular monthly review to help you get from idea to done. To learn more about the Visionary Journal and to order a copy for yourself, visit visionaryjournal.co. Alrighty, so let's talk about today's episode because I have another really amazing interview with an amazing woman entrepreneur on tap for you today. Today's guest is Iyanna Vaughn, who is the founder and owner of the bookkeeping firm Lovely Financials Group. She helps women-led empires make and manage their money to fund the lifestyle of their dreams. Running Lovely Financials Group for the past 3 years has allowed Iyanna to witness many things. She has come to understand businesses in their first steps to those surpassing 7 figures, and Iyanna strives to bridge the gap of financial empowerment for all women entrepreneurs. So you guys, she's our money person because she's trying to help do that wonderful, great work of getting women to where they need to be financially. Because if you look at the statistics, we are still not earning equally to men, and ladies, we are just as brilliant, if not more. So in this episode, Iyanna breaks down some of the most common money mistakes that she has seen from her clients and just new creatives as a whole. She also shares ways to simplify your money management to eliminate overwhelm, and you'll hear me share a bit of my own personal struggles, and she offers some really great advice for that. And then lastly, she gives her best advice for getting over your fear of money, which is something that we all need to be actively working on, changing our money stories so that they benefit us and they help us continue to grow. They don't keep us stuck and stagnant. So if you are ready to get your finances in order, grab your notebook and a pen. Let's dive in. Hey, Iyanna, welcome to the show.
Hey, Monique, how are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm so good, and I'm so excited to have you. As I mentioned earlier, I feel like this is going to be a really good conversation because everybody wants to talk about money. Everybody wants to talk about making more and keeping more and just doing the work to feel better, like change their money stories. And so exactly. I feel like this is going to be a really good episode because this is what people need. This is what they want. And I'm like, I'm not your money expert, but I can find you one.
That is so true. And just all of us becoming better stewards of our money is super important. So I'm happy to have that conversation.
Yes. All right. Well, then let's not wait. Let's jump in. But let's start at the top. Tell us how you got started. What's your backstory? How did you become this steward for money for women entrepreneurs in particular?
Yeah. So this is a funny story because it kind of starts out with me not even thinking I would be a business owner, or working with money, long term. So in college, I was a healthcare management major, and I took some accounting classes. I weirdly enough fell in love with accounting. My professor was like, you need to change your major. And I was tutoring folks who were accounting majors on how to do the coursework and practice for tests and everything. So I just really fell in love with it with how accounting helps you tell a story with your numbers. And although I was at the end of my college career, I also was a young mom at the time. I was pregnant and I was at the end of my college career, and I was like, let me just finish and let me go back to school for accounting if that was what I wanted to do in the future. I swore up and down I was going to be a CFO at a hospital because I wanted to work in the administration piece for hospitals. And at the time, I was working like three jobs in the health field. So I was a medical scribe at an emergency department, another scribe at an eye clinic, and I was working as like an admin position for an urgent care. So I was like really gun ho on being like in the health field. After I graduated, I was this is another like weird turn where I was a foster mom to adults with special needs. So the proper name was I was a host parent. So I was teaching adults how to best live their life in a way that was independent in their terms. So I was an advocate for them. So with that being said, I was a young mom of three overnight. That's how it felt pretty much. I had a new baby. I had two adults I was taking care of. So I was really overwhelmed with taking care of everyone but myself. So in that, I started saying, okay, let me dig into something that's creative and something for me. So I started a blog. And with that blog, I was introduced to so many women crushing it online in their businesses and just this community that welcomed me with open arms. And in that, I found that women were crushing it, but they were also afraid to talk about money. So with my background and like knowing accounting, and at the time I loved design, and I also have a knack for just keeping like organization within companies. So I was a VA that did like a different things, and I was like, okay, I need to focus on one thing. And the focus that I turned to was money and doing bookkeeping. I took a program that helped me conceptualize the accounting knowledge and turned it into a business. And one thing led to another, where I did work for one person, and then kind of like a domino effect of working with so many women in online business. And that's how Lovely Financials was born 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh, okay. So I love so many things that you said. And I know that this episode
Right.
I know that this episode is not about this, but how awesome are you that you were working as like this host mom for special needs kids?
Yeah.
And this is like a tangent, but I used to be, I taught for a couple of years. And then
Hmm.
as I started transitioning into entrepreneurship, I subbed. And I spent a lot of
Hmm.
time subbing in special needs classrooms, and
Right.
there's just such a huge gap of help there. It's
Yes.
ridiculous, and
Yes.
people don't even realize it. And so to hear you as like a young woman saying like, I have this new baby, but I'm also helping take
Right.
care of these adults who need
Right.
basic life skills, I just think that is so amazing.
Yes.
Um,
And we could talk about this too more in depth, like after, because it's opened my eyes to how people can be overlooked just based off their developmental disabilities. And me like digging deep and like understanding someone for who they are and helping them be independent and helping people understand what they're going through, and also like what they need to work on and turn it from like something that's negative to a positive and meet them where they're at. So it was a journey to
okay,
say
so
the least.
put a pin in that. We were going to come
Right.
back to that because I have some thoughts. Um, But also, just how you're saying it started coming out so early on, and I don't necessarily, well, like it started coming out in your college career that
Hmm.
you had this knack for accounting, which one is amazing because when we think
Thank
about
you.
accountants, we don't really think about women accountants.
Right,
Um,
right.
I don't know if I know a single woman accountant, and I know several accountants. Um, and then that one somebody recognized that in you, but then you had like this
Right.
this thought later on that okay, I could turn this into something, and that you notice that women in particular need money management help because it's an important skill. And you're right. A lot of us are afraid to talk about money because it's a very touchy subject and it feels very taboo. And I don't
Exactly.
know why we as women feel it's taboo, because I feel like men talk about money all the time, and they're so
Hmm.
willing to throw around salaries and numbers, and then it's like,
Exactly.
how much did you make? And I'm just like, child,
Right.
so about that.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I love everything that you just said. So I want to ask
Thank
you,
you.
do you subscribe to a particular money philosophy?
Yes, for sure. So one thing, it's super simple. Whatever gets tracked gets managed. So whatever you track with your numbers, that gets managed. So if you're tracking your income, you're going to manage that and you're going to happen to grow it. And if you track your expenses, you're going to track them and keep them low or keep and make sure that you're only expensing the relevant things and for your business and life and making sure that bottom line grows. So yeah.
Okay. So, again, I think that that's really, really one great and just simple and solid advice. So,
Right.
yay. But the tracking expenses, let's not even talk about that. I recently pulled up my spreadsheet where I have, the outgoing expenses I have, and I took a look at the other day and I was like, no, this is like, it's
Oh,
ballooned so much. It's so bad. And so I had to do like some really hard conversations with myself about like, are these things necessary? Do you
right.
need this program? Can you cut down like hours that you're contracting these work and do some of this work yourself because you have the time?
Exactly.
And like, there's some resistance there because I'm like, no, these things make my life easier. But then it's
Right,
like, but
right.
yeah, they're also eating up all of your money. So you need to make some decisions with your life.
Exactly. So the first thing is outside the spreadsheet, getting onto something that you can track in real time, like accounting software, so that you can kind of categorize them and then you can kind of make your bookkeeping processes a little bit easier. And then you can look at those stuff that you need to like omit from your expenses quicker. And then also looking at what you're pricing, because when you're pricing your offerings from a solopreneur where you're doing all of the work versus now you have team members, you have to figure out, okay, are you pricing for profit? So maybe looking at that top line and making sure that that's that the best rate to offer so that your team could possibly still if even if we cut some hours you still have a good margin for your offerings.
I had not considered that. What you just said about like looking at it from a solopreneur's perspective. I think there's
Hmm.
definitely I'm looking at it like from a solopreneur's perspective. I'm like, oh, I
Hmm.
have extra money. I can hire somebody, but I don't think I necessarily thought about,
Right,
oh, but you should add some dollars onto these things because you need to pay another person to do this work.
right. And even the shift because I'm changing from that solopreneur to having a team and I'm okay with taking a lower margin on that specific offering.
Okay, so you made mention of profit margins, and I think I kind of get it, but maybe not. So can you give us like a beginner version of what does that mean?
Yes. So there's two types of profit margins. One, I'm going to talk about in detail with your offerings. So we have the top line item, which is your revenue. You have your direct costs to perform the actual service or or deliver your product. And then we have the gross profit. And then when we divide the gross profit by the income, we get the gross profit margin. So that helps you understand how profitable your offering is.
Okay, all right. I think that made a lot of sense, and so I think we got it this time. So, all right, there you go, profit margin.
Yes. Because yeah, there's two sets of them. I don't want anyone to get confused by them because we have the gross versus net. And I was talking explicitly about like gross so that you know that your offering is profitable.
That makes a lot of sense. So clearly, I need to go have a conversation with myself about some of these numbers. So I just, yeah, looking at that spreadsheet last week, and I was like, oh, this is not good. Um, so there needs to be some adjustments that are made, which I guess this is a
Yeah,
great time to kind of segue into common money mistakes that you see. So you work with
right.
clients, and I'm sure behind the scenes in businesses you're working, because I know from reading your bio, it's like from people who have begun all the way to like seven figures. So what are some
Hmm.
common things that you see people are making like early on?
So the biggest mistake is commingling your finances. It's extremely hard to know what your business has brought in and the expenses at a glance when everything is all in one account. And the biggest misconception is business owners think that they should separate their money, like once they have their LLC, but even before then, you can create a separate account, even if it's in your personal name, so that you can separate everything and you can see at a glance kind of what's coming in, what's going out. And then you can treat your business like a business because from what I've experienced is different levels of treating your business like a business. There's that first level of separating it, treating it like a business where you're allocating time to it, you're making sure that you're tracking your expenses and things like that. And then there's different levels of, okay, now you're looking to hire a team member. Okay, looking to become an S corp if that's in the if that's the right path for you. So that first level is separating your finances. So that's one thing that I want everyone to kind of work through when you first starting is do your bookkeeping even when you first start. That people think that you shouldn't track it unless like you're making something, but if you're spending something, you need to know how much that is so that you can deduct those.
Okay. Anything else that you notice that people kind of do besides the commingling of the funds?
Yeah, so definitely underpricing. I see a lot of that with women.
I see that a lot too.
For sure.
And I've been guilty in the past.
Because when you go from um getting income from like your 9 to 5 versus a business, you have a lot of things to consider. One, all of that is without taxes, so you
Mm,
have to allocate money for taxes in
yes.
your pricing. Two, you have to make sure that you're covering those direct costs for the deliverables for that offering and also other expenses for your business, paying yourself out of your offerings. So just understanding how to price for profit is a huge one so that it affects, so that you can also afford to have expenses in your business or like, making sure that you could pay your people or pay your software subscriptions. And that leads to another one. Another mistake is signing up for all of these software subscriptions because although they're like a cute 29 every month, 19 or 5, it adds up.
$9.
And
I'm currently debating adding a $9
right.
subscription.
It's so easy.
It is. It's so easy. I'm like, it's $9. You spend $9 at Chick-fil-A. Like, it's
Right.
fine. But then you start like looking at all the other things, and I'm like, well, that $9 just added on to like this $275. So
Right.
now it's a whole nother thing.
Right, right. Too funny. Yes. And also, another big one is having your income be the big reveal around tax time. Like you should know how much you made when it's time to do your taxes. You need to look at it like every single month and so that you can know how much where you've been. So I want you to know where you were last year this time so that you can compare because when I'm looking over that with clients or myself, I'm like, I was in a whole different mindset when I was making this much in last year. And that tells your story of where you've come from and where you can go. And if you know that you grow a certain percentage each year, then you can make that assumption for future income or future like expenses and things like that. So that helps for sure.
Oh, so you just brought up a point that it sparked a question. So you were just saying about making sure you track your money or like look at your income every month because you don't want to just have this big surprise come tax time. So do you have any like specific routines or habits that you do every single month to make sure like I've checked all these boxes in my accounting and I know where we stand?
Right. Yeah, so great question. So I have some, so one tidbit, I have a freebie called the Classy Cash Flow Kit, and that with that comes like bookkeeping tasks that you have. So we have like a daily task, and that's like checking your bank accounts, making sure that everything looks good. I like to write my income. So I have like an income tracker so that you track your income every single day so that you're keeping that momentum and looking at how close you are to your goals. Weekly, do your bookkeeping. I like to do that every single week and so that I'm tracking those expenses so that you get a clear picture of like, okay, the first week you spend X amount, second week X amount, so that you kind of know your flow of your business expenses and business income. And then I also love to have a CEO day, and that's when you sit back and work on the business. So you review kind of what transpired throughout the week, what were outside of your finances, how was your marketing, what leads do you have to follow up with, what projects do you have to close, and then go down to like, okay, what did you bring in this week, and what expenses do you have this week, what is outstanding. And on a monthly basis, have like a finance review, and we could talk about that a little bit later, or you could look at the freebie. And then also transferring money to your tax savings account, because a lot of times, again, talking about like pricing, we don't consider what percentage needs to be for your tax savings, because all of it, we have to consider that. And if you're transferring money from your regular checking to your tax savings at tax time, you don't have to take that chunk of what you owe from your regular checking account to pay your taxes. So definitely transferring money over and analyzing your budget. So if you create your budget, look at it and see the variance from what actually happened versus what you have planned for your budget. On a quarterly basis, making sure that you pay your quarterly taxes, or just make sure you have that lump sum of your tax savings. Reviewing your pricing models, because things change every quarter. What I've seen, businesses go through a complete overhaul quarterly sometimes, especially in the digital world, because things change so much. Um, change Making changes and notes to your income and expenses. Maybe you have a trip planned in the summer, making sure that you plan in advance so that you're not like surprised. Oh, why is my net income lower? Oh, because you had a trip planned already um, that you forgot about. And then yearly, definitely paying your 1099 contractors, making sure you're doing it on time by January 31st, reviewing your budget for the year, looking at that variance again, and creating a new one for the next year. So those are some major bookkeeping tasks that I definitely like to do with my clients, and kind of teach my other clients to do on their own.
Okay. All right. So that was a really good list. So you guys, that was a lot. So
Yes.
I'm going to suggest that you go and download her classy cash flow kit. And I'll have the link to that in the show notes. And I'll also be available in your little podcasting app. If there's clickable links there, I'll put it there as well. So you can get it. Because, I mean, unless you took really good notes. But let's be
Right.
honest. There's an easier way to do this. Go get the kit. Okay, so with all of these tasks that you suggested, do you have any favorite tools that you like to use for money management?
Yeah, so I use a software called Zero, that's at Xero. And also for clients, we use QuickBooks Online. Those are pretty robust, and they link with a lot of your supplemental softwares like Shopify. Um, they link with some other like sales tax software. And Dubsado links really good with QuickBooks Online. So Dubsado is like a CRM. So just looking at what you use already for your tools, and seeing which would be the best for what best accounting software for yourself.
I vote for Zero. I've been using them for years
Oh,
because it's,
awesome. I love Zero.
yes.
I'm a Zero ambassador. So I love what I love about Zero is that they're made for the business owner in mind, because it's super simple, right?
Yes, I used QuickBooks, and I mean, I'm sure it's better because it's been at least 5 or 6 years since I've switched over. But
Yeah.
it was very complicated to set up. It
Right.
was really touch and go for a while there,
Right.
especially having a product based business and having to
Right.
figure out like connecting the sales invoices. Like, who has time to sit there and type in every single T-shirt sale every day? Not me. So I love that Shopify integrated with Zero right off the bat, and I didn't have to
Mhm.
do anything. It's the
Right.
fastest thing ever. And oh my gosh. Okay, so sometimes I see people tweeting online about Zero, and they're like, oh, I
Yeah.
wish there was a way to do things faster. And I'm like, use your rules, people. If
Oh
you
my
have
gosh, yes.
Zero, use the freaking rules, okay? Listen,
Exactly.
they have this little setting where you can go in, and if you have transactions that happen all the time for like the same places, you can set
Mm-hmm.
rules and it matches them up for you faster. So you can save time and just go through and make sure they're all okay and clear them. So I do that
Right.
with because I ship things, I do that with
Right.
my shipping provider. So that way I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like sitting there trying to reconcile all of these little shipping transactions all the time and PayPal fees. I do it with PayPal
Right.
fees too because who has time to be matching all of that up? And it just does it so
Exactly.
seamlessly and it's so quick.
Exactly. Now, QuickBooks does do that as well, but I do have an affinity for Zero because it's just so easy for business owners who are just starting to do their own books because I'm huge on business owners doing their own numbers until they reach a point where they just don't have that time to do it and they need to hand it off to someone like myself.
Oh, and what like is there a magic number? Like is there an income number? Is there like
Yeah.
how do you gauge when is a good time for somebody to outsource that?
In my opinion, definitely when they surpass six figures. Now, I do have trainings. I do train folks one on one because I do think that everyone has like their own unique bookkeeping setup that they would need. And so I could definitely set you up even if you're just starting, but you need to be on it so that you can be really intimate with your own numbers at first to know them through and through. And then you say, okay, I've been doing it. I made this certain amount and I'm able to hand it off to someone else.
Okay.
Now that idea has changed a bit for me, but now it's like, okay, I think for sure people need to kind of handle their stuff on their own.
No, I like that though. I think I'm a big proponent of DIYing in the
Hmm.
beginning because
Right.
if you know in the beginning how to handle the basics of your building, the basics of your business, you're just
Hmm.
better off in the long run. It's easier for you to figure out when it's a good time to outsource and what exactly you need to outsource. It's a really good way
Exactly.
to make sure that the people that you're outsourcing to, you know the proper questions to ask them before you hire so that you're not
Hmm.
bringing on people who are incompetent because you know what a good job looks like. But if you start off outsourcing those things too early and you haven't gotten a good flow and know how to do it, then how do you know if somebody's screwing you
Right.
over? Because your business is your business. Like somebody, you can
Right.
bring other people in to help you, but it's your baby and you want to make sure it's getting the best care as possible. So I think that that is really, really solid advice.
Yeah. And I love to tell, even if someone isn't necessarily savvy with their numbers, I tell them, hey, I'm going to educate you along the way. I'm going to tell you what these reports mean. And I also remind them, I'm not the gatekeeper for all of your things financial. So definitely um, take control of it in a way to for your understanding. And I'm just like that helper to help you understand your money even more.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so let's talk about. We've been talking kind of about business, your finances, like some of your favorite tools and tasks and things like that. What are some ways that we can really begin to simplify this whole money management piece and eliminate
Right.
overwhelm? Because I know for me personally, sometimes, not all the time, but probably
Hmm.
more often than not, going into my accounting software can be really overwhelming. So I'll let these tasks pile
Mm.
up and then it'll be like time to pay sales tax. I'm like, dang it. Now I got to spend the whole day reconciling the entire last quarter
Oh
because I
no.
didn't do it or I didn't keep up with it as well as I can. So, do you have any tips for like simplifying money management?
Yeah, so going there once a week,
Oh God.
maybe creating because if you're doing it once a week, then you'll be done by the end of the month and it's really just reviewing.
I'm gonna be
And
honest. Full disclosure.
Mhm.
I set a thing every week in Asana to do it, and every week I come back on Monday and it's red, and I just click it off.
Maybe if you created it like your first step, because in our systems, every client is on us as like we have like our tasks on Asana just to kind of like check things off to make sure that we are keeping up with everything. So, like, the first step is making sure all the transactions are on there. Second step, just reconciling the transactions, kind of like checking them off, making sure they're there. You have the rules that makes it much easier. But if you have that step-by-step process, that's more, you can make it as much detailed as possible so that you don't feel like you're just doing that one task and it's like, okay, if I do none of it, then none of it is done. Maybe if I do some of it, then at least some of it is done. Um, so yeah, if you can, how long does it take you on a good day to
It
do
doesn't.
it?
It honestly doesn't take very long. I would say if I get in there and I just put on some music, it depends on
Mm-hmm.
the week, but it can take 30 minutes to an hour. It's
Yeah,
not even a long time.
yeah. But it's just like actually doing it.
But then I'm
So
like,
like,
it somehow like I'll miss it, and I'll be like,
right.
oh, don't worry about it. I'll catch up next week. And then it's like 3 weeks later, and I'm like, damn it, I did not catch up.
Well, here's an idea. Maybe do you have like a CEO day where you go over like everything in your business?
um, Not so much a CEO day, but I guess I have a batch day.
Okay. So maybe having a day where you're working as a CEO and you're doing you're reviewing your marketing, making sure that you kind of notate what transpired throughout the week, kind of building that momentum of like, okay, I'm in this. It's been a great week. You have your goal, you set your goal for next week, and then finish off with the bookkeeping because you know what you need to do and then finish it up with that number telling that story. Maybe that can help.
I think that I actually think that I would like that because I don't think I really consider like doing this. See, like I try to do most of my planning like once a month, but I
Mm-hmm.
could see how it could be a lot less overwhelming if I broke some of that planning down over the course of the month,
Mm-hmm.
and I could just build in bookkeeping time there as well.
Yeah.
So that way I won't be the day before sales tax are due
Right.
trying to do a whole quarter's worth of sales tax because it sucks. Not so it
Yeah.
used to
So,
really suck when I was using QuickBooks, but again, this was several years ago. It doesn't
right.
suck as much, which is probably why I let it pile up so badly.
So
But
what
it
do you
used to be
use
bad.
for sales tax? There's a software called TaxJar that can make that process even faster.
I've seen them, but I actually don't have a lot of problems with sales tax.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
that part is really easy. It's more so that I'm like, oh, you didn't reconcile these transactions, so you don't
Oh,
even know
okay.
what the sales taxes are. But no,
Right.
the sales tax part, I'm actually pretty good about. I just need to be more consistent about making sure everything
Mm-hmm.
is good to go. So on that day, I'm just like, okay, go pull the numbers that you need and put them in the thing and send it, and it's fine.
Yeah. Well, TaxJar automates it for you. It brings it from Shopify and then they automate it.
Oh, then I don't even have
Automate
to
your
do it.
filing. Mm-hmm. You just set it up.
Ah, okay, I'm about to
We can
write that
talk about
down.
that later.
I'm like, listen, if I could just eliminate that
Right.
altogether,
Then you can.
I'm saying it's not even a big thing, but if we could just get rid of it, I'm cool.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so I'm gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna come back to that later.
Right.
But no, I think creating a CEO day is actually I'm gonna try it. I saw this thing on someone else's podcast. Her name is Raina Pomeroy, and I guess I need to put this in
Hmm.
the show notes as well. And she does this CEO report, and she set it.
Right.
Have you seen it? She set it
I
up.
haven't seen the report, but I've heard her talk about it before. I haven't
Yeah,
seen the report though.
it's really neat. I'll link it in the show notes for you guys. But
Cool.
she uses a type form, and she has
Hmm.
a series of questions that she asks herself every Friday, and she just goes and puts it in the type form. And then when you do your planning or your CEO days or whatever, you can pull up all of this data in this type form
Mm.
that has, and you can track whatever you want. Like some of the, I have one, but I haven't been doing it consistently to be fair. But you can track like, what really went well that week, how much money you made, your stats, and you
Right.
just have this, and it's really neat because it's all neat and categorized inside of tap form, so you don't have to worry about like finding all the information all over the place. And I just
Right.
thought like, oh, that's really smart. So I can add this to my
For sure.
I'll do my CEO report and then make sure I do my
Hmm.
accounting, and that's how I'll close out Friday.
Right. Yep. See there?
See, making progress. Now I just got to
Right.
make sure I stay consistent with doing it on Friday. That's the thing. Um, But yeah, all right. So I wanna segue into what I think is like the big thing for people, which is
Hmm.
fear of money, getting
Right.
over our fear of money, and doing this money mindset work because we all have money stories. A lot of times
Exactly.
they're not even stories that belong to us. They were probably
Was
stories from our parents that we
listen,
have brought into adulthood. Raise your hand if
right.
that's you, because it's me.
I'll raise all of the hands, okay?
So, talk to us about that. Like, how do you even begin to start doing this work so that money doesn't feel so scary?
Right. So, transparency. Before I started my business, I wasn't the best with my own money management. I knew exactly what I needed to do and I understood money. So, when I fell through the cracks, I could create a strategy to correct myself. So, with that, I fought my education versus like what my kind of like basically like with family generations and like all of my own habits. So I'm constantly fighting the habit versus the education and knowing what I need to do. And what has helped me now is like telling myself that I am worthy to make the money that I desire and that I no longer am, my family is no longer in a point of survival. Like we are in this day and age where we can create our futures and legacy the way we want. And the only one that's stopping us is ourselves. So, so with that, I whenever I'm working with others and they're saying, "Oh, I suck with money. I'm terrible." I'm like, "No, no, no. Don't say that. Don't say that you're terrible. Don't say that you suck. Just say that that's something that you're working on, and that's why you sought help." So instead of talking to yourself negatively because we don't know how much that affects us because that affects us a lot, turn it and say, "Hey, this is something that I'm working towards and I'm working on it and I'm going to focus on it and I'm going to get better at it." And that helps you subconsciously tell yourself the truth that you will get better and that you're not putting yourself down and punishing yourself for making any mistakes.
Ciao. Every morning I go through this journaling process, and one of those steps is affirmations. And I have like
Hmm.
four that I repeat every morning. I read them, and if I feel like I need to add any to the list, I'll add one. But one that I always put in there is money is flows to me easily and readily, and the universe will
Hmm.
provide everything that I need. And I write that.
Right.
I read that every single morning before I get started with my day,
Right.
because we are in this place where we need to really shift stories that don't belong to us. I shared on a podcast I was on recently about a money story that I have adopted from my parents, and it's
Mm.
one it basically influenced how I made like my decision to what college to go to.
Right.
And I was just sharing, like, to be somebody who worked so hard and did all of these things to get scholarships and everything to go to college so that it wouldn't be a burden on my family. I
Mm.
remember wanting to go to a really specific college, but deciding to not even to apply and only to apply to one, all because my dad said we couldn't afford it. Which,
Mm.
that's valid. But the thing is, I adopted this story that we couldn't afford it, but my parents
Right.
didn't actually end up paying for my college because I
Right.
did all this hard work and got scholarships and was able to have my college paid for. Yet
Wow.
and still, I made this big decision about my life based on somebody else's money story and not on like my
Exactly.
own abilities. And so I'm constantly fighting to like untether myself from these stories that my parents have told us over the years, because I'm just like, my situation's not yours. I don't have all the
Exactly.
siblings. I don't have all the kids that you guys had.
Right.
So,
That is so.
it's a different circumstance. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy how we live in the house that like our mindsets build.
Exactly. Right. And mine is mine is similar to a point where, I was raised by a single mom and I knew that I wasn't about to apply to a school out of state because she needed my help. I felt felt like she needed my help and I am also it would be something that she couldn't afford to help me out of state and it was just where I was comfortable. So yeah, definitely relate to that money story and how we were built or raised and how that turned out to be our story at first, but we have to work hard to change that story.
Do you have any like resources or books or things that you've read about money mindset that have really helped you?
For sure. So, You Are a Badass at Making Money by
Yes.
Jen Sincero. And yeah, that's I got when I have the Audible book And I was like writing all of like the mantras and I hang them like above my computer. So whoever visits, they see it, but it's like, I don't care. This is some of my affirmations that I look at. And I also really love Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it just kind of makes you self-aware of what you desire and understanding that whatever you desire is already true. You just have to work towards it to make it come to fruition. And the this is random, but I heard on a podcast with James Wedmore, and I think he interviewed someone, and he was saying we could like blame our parents for what went wrong, but we also have to blame them for what went right. So
Mm.
that stuck with me. It's like that we were meant to go through these like difficulties with money so that we can transfer that and transform it for our future and help our children create the legacies that they deserve.
Ooh, that's really good. I like that a lot. Oh my gosh, there's so much good conversation here. Ah, I can just talk with you all day. Um, but we're not because people have things to do,
Right.
and and I know they don't want to spend all day listening to a podcast. So
But this is so good.
it really has, and I hope that this conversation has been really beneficial to those of you who are listening. But my favorite part of this show is the Pimp Your Brilliance Action Challenge because everyone knows I just don't think having ideas are great without having some type of action behind it. So
Right.
Iyanna's going to share with us 3 quick ways to get control of your finances.
Right. So we talked about this a little bit, but the biggest way is to one, get on an accounting software. I think we both agree that Xero is a really easy or easier software for you to do on your own. Link up those bank accounts, look and see and code what came in. So that's your income, code what went out. That's your expenses. Make sure that you have separate accounts for your business versus your personal so that you can separate them and stop commingling. If you have done so already, that's totally fine. Just keep it pushing, keep it moving, and separate them and go forward with it. Don't wait. And also making sure that you price for profit. So I want you to get out a sheet of paper and look at what you've been pricing so far and understand how many hours you've been dedicated to create the deliverables for your offering. Make sure that you track your direct expenses and then getting that profit margin from from that offering and seeing if that is profitable. So if you have to change it now so that you can just go forward. You don't even have to announce that, oh yeah, I'm going to change it. No, change it so that the next person that is working with you has your new pricing squared away so that you track your money, you price for profit, and you are separating your finances so that you can do your bookkeeping.
All right, so there you go. Those are your quick tips. That's your assignment today. If you are not, if you have not set up a separate bank account and you have not put together some type of way to track your finances, like using financial software, go do it. Go do it and do it now because these are really, really important. And if you want to grow into the badass business owner that I know that you can become, these are really essential first steps. All right. Also, I always love to ask, what are you reading currently? Have you read anything really good? Anything we should
Yeah.
know about?
So, oh my gosh, the game changer book that I have read, really listened to in Audible is a book called Traction. Ooh. So it talks about like managing your money as you scale, or really managing your business as you scale. So adding on like your team members, making sure that everyone has specific actionable goals to work towards for the bigger goal of the company. And that's really timely for where I'm at in business because I'm coming from that solopreneur to business owner where I'm having team members and I'm trying to not be the bottleneck of all things in the business. So handing off, like being able to delegate certain stuff in a way that is understandable so that people can and they also know what expectations I have from them. So if you are growing a business where you're growing your team, I definitely recommend that book Traction. Sure.
All right, so I will add that into the show notes. And if listeners want to reach out and get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you could definitely sign up for the Classy Cashflow Kit, and you'll get immersed in the on the email list. Definitely, I've been having a lot of fun on Instagram, so you can follow us on Instagram at instagram.com/lovelyfinancials. And also, if you want to have more discussion, you can be a part of our Facebook group. It's called the Profitable Ladies Lounge, and we'll be talking more about money and just kind of making it a candid conversation.
Yes, all right. Well, it was really great having you on the show. So much good conversation.
I
And
know.
I know, like I said, we could just talk for hours, but we can't do
Right.
that because people, there's things for people to do. But thank you again for coming on and sharing your expertise. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great being on. And it's funny because this is our first time talking, so it's like
I know, but I love when I interview people and the conversation feels natural and it flows because it's not
right.
always that great. It's just not. All right. Well, all right, you guys, until next week, go out there and pimp your brilliance.